Hey, I'm Lee Balcom, and what we want to talk about today are mistakes. 5 mistakes that I watch people make as they're trying to save their marriage. The reason that we want to talk about that is so you don't make those mistakes, and if you have made the mistakes, or if you are making mistakes, that we say there's a path back. So sometimes when I talk about these mistakes, people say, well, I've already done it, so I'm out of luck. That is not the case. Do you make it harder when you make mistakes? Absolutely. I mean, earlier today I was playing pickleball and we made some mistakes and suddenly we were 8 points behind. 8 points behind out of 11. And so at that point, it's a question of can you get back up? We did. We ended up winning 11-9, much to the chagrin of our partners. And there are a couple of things there. First of all, we were making mistakes and therefore we got behind. But the second thing is we never let our minds get out of the game. My partner and I kept going, we can do this. Let's take it one point at a time. That's one of the things I've talked about before. And so that's the same with this process, right? And I'm not saying that, saving your marriage is anything like a pickleball match. I'm just using kind of a metaphor there. So just to make you understand, I'm not comparing the two. So let's talk about each of these 5 mistakes. And so you can identify them. The first mistake, take no action. That's the mistake. Take no action. You take no action. Now, here's the interesting thing. Sometimes people think they're taking action, but they're not really taking action. Years ago, I was talking with somebody, it was a coaching relationship, and I was trying to get him to start moving, to do something. He said, well, it's not like I'm doing nothing. And I said, well, tell me what you're doing. He said, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. And I said, thinking happens in here, actions happen out there, right? It doesn't matter how much you're thinking about all the good stuff you want to do or all the important stuff you want to accomplish. If it's not happening out here, it's not happening. And so not taking no action comes in a couple of different flavors. First one is denial. Many times people live in a state of denial, and so they make this mistake because they're like, oh, it'll pass. My spouse will get over this. My spouse will forget whatever happened. My spouse will move on. We'll get back together. We've been here before. Denial. And one of the most important things about denial is saying, okay, I get it. There is a problem we've got to address. So that's the first stage of no action. The next stage that often happens for people is they think they are taking action. For instance, they'll order a book, they'll order a program, maybe they get my program, they read something on the internet, they do something. And one of the things I've really noticed is that we sometimes think that we've accomplished it when we get something, right? You get a book on something, you're like, okay, I've done that, check that off. Maybe you get a self-improvement book and you never actually go through it and learn from it. I did it. So how do I know that that's the case? Well, let me give you some pretty abysmal figures. There are the vast majority of books that people buy that they never get past the first third of the book by research. And the scary thing is 90% of books are never read to the end. So if you don't get to the end, maybe you did get what you needed somewhere in there, but if you don't get to the end, you're probably not even taking action from there. And so part of what happens is in our mind, we go, okay, did that, check that off the list, got the book, right? And it could be a great book. It could be something that would help you. It could be my program that could help you. But if you take no action, it doesn't matter how much information. So that's the other piece of this, is that we believe that that information is power, right? We've heard that before. Knowledge is power. I want to tell you, knowledge is not power at all. Applied knowledge is power. Applying something, taking action, that's what gives us power. And so when you find yourself taking no action, sometimes it's because you think you have, well, first of all, you may think that things will just kind of get better on their own, right? That's one. Second, you may feel like you did it because you bought a book, got a program, read an article, did something. The third one is you may have fear about taking action. So let me reassure you that fear is never the reason to not do something. Fear is just an emotion. And that emotion is often tied to how important something is. The more you fear something, the more important it's likely to be, right? And so fear is the other reason I often hear people say they haven't taken action. I'll say, well, why didn't you do that? Well, I was afraid to. Not a reason, just a factor. And so what I coach them to do is to go, yes, I'm afraid. And I choose to act. It's called courage, right? And so we have to sign up for courage in order to make movement forward. Okay, so taking no action, mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 may not surprise you. It's the opposite. Take every action, right? No matter what, you take every action. So you'll read something and you'll jump in and try it. And you'll read something else and you jump in and try it. And you'll see a video and you jump in and try it. And you're putting all this stuff together. And all of it is under the save your relationship, save your marriage kind of in your head. But it doesn't all fit together. In fact, some of the junk I see on the internet is what I'm talking about. Using reverse psychology or something like that. And then you kind of go in another direction. And so you're taking all these approaches. And the problem is when you take every action, it feels like you're just lobbing stuff at somebody, and they don't know what to do with that. It's coming at them, and it doesn't make sense because for you may go, it all fits in the box of save your marriage. For them, it feels like you're taking a big junk box and just dumping it on them, right? Throwing all the stuff on top of them. And all they're doing is getting a cascade of stuff that doesn't make sense to them. So taking every action is often just as destructive as taking no action. Because taking no action, you're headed down a path. You take no action, you're going on down that path. Taking every action, you're headed down like 15 paths, and none of them are getting where you want to. You have to have a clear understanding and a basis for doing what you're doing. So let me be very honest. My approach works on connection theory, that what humans need is connection. And the other piece is what I think of as the fact that we humans have a need for growing and expanding, and yet we stagnate. And when all that happens, we lose our energy. And the third piece of my puzzle, my understanding, and if you watch my prior videos, you know this, it's about becoming a we, as in you're creating this sense of being on the team. Those are my 3 pieces, the 3 C's: connect, change yourself, create a new path. That's what I base my approach on, all of my approach on. And so if you were, for instance, to decide to use my program, the Save the Marriage system, then you read something else, you have a basis. You have an understanding to go, does that make sense? Because if it doesn't make sense in the context that I have of this, it's probably only going to get me in trouble. I'm going to come back to that in, let's see, the mistake number 4, right? So just understand that take no action, take every action, anything, everything, throw everything at it. 2 big mistakes. Third big mistake is to chase, to crowd, to beg and demand, or as I call it, panic and pursue. Panic and pursue is what you do when you're feeling like you're losing something. You got to do whatever you can to get there, right? Panic and pursuing rarely works because the faster you run, the faster your spouse runs. And so when you chase, you crowd, you beg, you demand, here it is, your spouse going, man, I'm not feeling the connection. I need some space. And you're going, oh, no space, right? Many times people say, hey, do you think that I could give my spouse who's telling me they don't want to divorce your material on how to save your marriage? And my immediate response is no, because of this mistake. Number 3, they're telling you one thing and you're saying the opposite, right? So they're going, I don't know if we can stay married. I feel like we need a divorce. Well, read this about saving your marriage, right? And that doesn't fit for them. It doesn't flow for what's going on. And so it causes problems. So that's a big mistake. Number 3, chase, crowd, beg, demand, or call it very simply, panic and pursue. Okay? Big mistake. Mistake number 4, go no contact. If you've read about the no contact rule on the internet, unthink it. Get it out of your head. It is a master plan in destroying your relationship. Let me tell you why. Told you just a few minutes ago that connection is the lifeblood of a relationship. That's not just my theory. That's what research shows us. And so the idea or the mentality behind the no contact rule is you're going to make somebody jealous, right? So if you make them jealous, they'll come begging for you to come back. In actuality, what happens is they go, oh, you're on the same page I am. You recognize that we're disconnected, so we might as well have no contact. Now, here's where we go back to the take every action. Okay, I've already told you very clearly about how I approach this. Connection, change yourself, create a new path, right? So you're connecting. And many times people will say, everything was going great, and then I took the next step and did no contact and it blew it apart. I'm like, the next step? That is not the next step. That's in another universe of useless information, by the way. It's useless ways of doing something, useless ways of trying to save your marriage, just manipulation. Put it over there. In my universe of connecting, changing yourself, creating a new path, they make progress, and I see it every day. People are making progress building the connection. They're like, oh, that's really working. That's really working. So now I think I'm going to make them jealous. I'm going to pull away, and they'll come back for more. And so what happens is your spouse is going, okay, I see a possibility here. We're connecting. Maybe there's something that could build. I see you changing. I see us growing. I see the possibilities of our relationship. And they're beginning to build some loose ways of thinking, the pathways back to getting back into the marriage. And then the person goes no contact. No contact. And the rule is no contact for 30 days. I would say the rule should be no contact for any period of time is a risk. You don't overwhelm them. Remember the panic and pursue, but no contact. What that ends up doing for your spouse is going, this is building into the connection, and all of a sudden you go, and they go, oh, what happened? I thought there were possibilities back. There's no way back. And so I can't tell you how many people have lost their efforts to save their marriage because they read somewhere about or watched a video or some other piece of crap on the internet about no contact. And they thought, that's what I'm going to do. No, so why do people buy into no contact? Because there's some relief. If you're feeling this difficulty in the relationship and you go, oh, I'm just not going to do it, there can be some relief. Here's the other thing I've realized. They say you got to do the no-contact rule for 30 days, and they guarantee their program for 30 days. So by the time you figure out that you've destroyed your relationship, they're walking away. It doesn't work. It's never worked. When you have no contact, you have no relationship. So this is a big one because I see it pull people in all the time. No contact is crap, to say it nicely. Okay? So what do we have so far? Take no action. Take every action, no matter what, including panic and pursuing, and maybe including no contact. And then what's the fifth one? People give up at the first bump in the road. You are going to have pushback. It's not likely that a spouse who's going, our marriage is in trouble, I don't know if we can stay together. It's not likely that they suddenly very quickly go, oh, I guess we can. It's more likely that they will have some reservations, some concerns. They will have some doubts. They will even test to see if the changes are real. Those are the bumps. You make progress, and then they go, is this really possible? And many times when they pull it back and they create that bump, people go, I give up. So how long do you work on it? I can't answer that. I will tell you that there are times when people work and work and work and work, and they cannot save their marriage. I'm the first person to tell you not every marriage can be saved. I'm also one of the people who's going to say the only way to figure out if you can save your marriage is to try. You got to try. But it's not like I'll give it a day. Maybe I'll give it a week. I had this person who said, I figure I can't save my marriage. And I said, well, how long have you been working on it? And he said, probably about 4 days. I said, 4 days? How long has your marriage been in trouble? He said, well, probably 10 years. 4 days in 10 years? 10 years, what's what, 3,600 and whatever days. That's a lot of days. After 4 days. And they weren't even bad 4 days. There's no paperwork filed, nothing legal, 4 days. And he goes, I give up. I tap, right? I'm out. You have to decide how long you're going to work on it, for sure. You get to do that. I'm just telling you, it is a mistake if when you hit the first bump, even the second bump, third bump, fourth bump, to walk away. If you choose to, that's up to you. I just want you to know that's the mistake people make. So that's it. The big 5 mistakes that people make when they're working on saving their marriage. 1, take no action. That basically looks like sometimes it's denial. Sometimes it's, I got a book, that's enough. Sometimes it's, I'm afraid to take any action. All of that, mistakes. Number 2, take every action, no matter what. You don't have any basis or understanding. You just lump everything together and throw it out, dumping the junk box on your spouse. Number 2. Number 3, you panic and pursue. Chase, beg, demand, coerce, shame, whatever it takes. Big mistake. Number 4, or you go no contact. I have no contact with you, then you'll come begging back. They don't come begging back, I promise you. And number 5, that first bump, second bump, third bump, but the bump in the road, you go, I give up. Is there a time when you choose to give up? Sure. Just don't make sure it's just not because it's a bump in the road. There's a lot more road after that bump. Let's get you there. If you need help finding a basis and understanding, finding an approach, making sure you stay on track, making sure you don't violate any of that mess, please visit me. savemarriage.com. Come grab my system. Let's get you going. If you want, while you get my system, you can also get a free week of VIP, which includes my apology letter formula, how to build your plan, 10 principles of saving your marriage, lots of other resources. You don't have to have it, but sometimes people want to be more effective, more efficient. That'd be a way of doing it. I'd give you a free week. You just have to sign up for it. I'm not forcing it on you. It's all up to you. If you'd like a little more help, my coaches, while they have space in their calendar, will do a 15, 20-minute get started coaching session with you. It's complimentary. We want you to have every opportunity to get moving, and they basically are trying to make sure that you are aimed at where you want to get to. We don't force that on you either. You sign up for that. Get to your download page for the system, you grab that. You can find all of that at savethemarriage.com. That's savethemarriage.com. This is Lee Balcom wishing you the best as you work to save your marriage.